G'day, I'm Nathan Ahern, and this is, goodness knows how many businesses this is at this point. At this point, it would have to be in the 20s that I have either started or gotten involved with or worked with someone to purchase, or we've done IPOs at this point. We've done international, like lots of international business. I think I was at this point, past this point, I'd run 13 companies at once. I've had a lot of experience at this point. This is probably the easiest way of saying it. And I've been involved in making and losing billions. Not my money, fortunately, but I've lost some of my money on other things. There's a previous video about Vuid. This one is about Tredly, and it was actually developed around the same time as Vuid. And this was one of those businesses that we didn't intend to create. It sort of just happened. And I'm not sure that it ever would have been able to turn into a viable business. Because we just accidentally created it. And that wasn't the issue. I think that the issue at this point still was what had happened at Vuid and with some of our customers at Red Dog, and at Red Dog, and a few other things. I certainly hadn't learned what I needed to learn. I was still in the process of digesting the successes. I hadn't even gotten close to digesting the failures. And it was the failures that I needed to look at. And so Tredly was a piece of virtualization infrastructure or virtualization software that ran on FreeBSD. We used the FreeBSD jails and expanded it. So in essence, it was like programmatically bringing up a container, like what you would call a Docker container today, but on FreeBSD. And it had lots and lots and lots of very, very cool features. And we built it because we needed the features of FreeBSD to run Vuid. We wanted to use the XFS file system because we needed to use large software RAID arrays to store the data for Vuid. And we wanted the reliability of FreeBSD. We'd been using FreeBSD in our data centers and our firewalls at Red Dog for quite some time. So it was a really reliable piece of software that we were quite used to using. And so Docker wasn't out yet. Or maybe it was out, but it wasn't in production. You couldn't use it in production or something like that. So we had to develop, Tredly. We called it Tredly. So it had the brand name. It had all this sort of stuff. It had its own management interface. You could stack as many containers as you wanted on it. They're just folders. A container is just a folder on a file system. We had developed the network stack, the internal network stack, so that when you built a new jail, which is what the technical underneath the skin is jail, and then when you built that, then we built a whole bunch of software networking within the FreeBSD operating system, such that that container could either access a local switch, so a local software switch, so that it could actually communicate within the same piece of hardware with other containers on that same network. So you could have multiple, essentially, customers who couldn't see each other. And then you'd create a software layer switch that would allow you to switch between other servers and also between other data centers. And it was all private networking. So that was really a huge challenge in bash scripting and all sorts of scripting, but it was incredible because what it allowed you to do was, when if Vuid needed to spool up 45 servers, you would just tell Tredly to do that, the management interface, and it would just go through and spool them all up across, however many servers you wanted them on. So it was incredible. It was globally distributed, so you could operate, and it didn't matter if a data center went down. So if AWS went down, that's fine. Google was still operating. Cloud, DigitalOcean's still operating. So it was a really, really cool bit of software. But it was open. First of all, it was open source, which is not a huge issue. It was just open source. So the network stack and all the stuff, across the surface was open source. The management interface wasn't open source, at least initially. So we had an intention to turn it into a business, but we didn't know how to market it. I hadn't learned the value and importance of marketing at this point in time, especially for a software product that didn't really exist yet. So we floundered a bit in this space, and our main focus was Vuid. So I'm sort of trying to get Vuid up and running, and you've got this piece of software called Tredly in the background running away. And I was just caught up in the mess that was Vuid, really. There wasn't any reason why you couldn't have turned it into a viable business. Could you have turned it into a viable business just doing containers on FreeBSD? I'm not sure with the management interface. I couldn't see a business case such that it was going to be a very successful business. It's possible. I just didn't have the connections in the hosting community either to go out and get this happening. So in essence, we built Tredly. It was the underlying infrastructure was open source. The management interface wasn't. And we decided that in an effort to focus more on Vuid, we would make the entire thing open source. And that would potentially help us from a marketing perspective to get more people interested in Vuid, having them look at it. And it would take off, that pressure on us. So, and would also, not only that, we'd also get contributions from the market, other people. So it was a pretty exciting time. But it was one of those times where we probably could have done not to have another business while I was trying to solve the issues with Vuid. Not that it would have made much of a difference to solving the issues with Vuid. Fundamentally, I needed probably 2 or 3 years to digest the failures of not just my own, but others. What has people fail? Why would, just simple questions like why when I'd seen people have everything. They've got everything they could ever imagine, their dreams are reality, and they throw it away. No one can stop them. It's just, there's this drive to destroy what they have. And it made no sense. How do you reach someone like that was probably one of my biggest questions. How do I reach the people around me? How do people reach me if that's where I go? And that was, for me, probably the most important thing other than working out how to market a product. What makes a product marketable? What makes a product like Red Dog something that matters? How do you have people want to jump on board? How do you find your own customers? So Tredly helped with that quite a bit, actually. But it was ultimately, you'd call it as a business failure. It wasn't a software failure. The infrastructure was phenomenal, and it's still available today on GitHub. So, thanks for watching. This wasn't as exciting as the other ones. If you've watched these videos or this one and you're thinking you want to work with me, get in contact. I like to do cool things with cool people. I only aim for big stuff. I want to make a big difference. I want to share my knowledge with people who are very, very keen to make a big difference in the world. That doesn't mean that you have to have this incredible idea. Some of the best ideas in the world are the most simple, and they just seem ridiculously simple, and how does someone miss it? Don't think that it needs to be some complicated idea. It just needs to be an idea. So can't hurt but have a conversation. So just reach out, links down below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.